Okay, good morning, everybody, and a warm welcome to all. Thank you for joining the Faculty of Humanities at our virtual open day. My name is Associate Professor Jane Bennett. The image that you see on the slide is of Associate Professor Shose Kesi, who is our Dean, and she was very much looking forward to welcoming you this morning. There was a bit of a personal crisis at her home, and she asked me to do this introduction with you. And I know that, crisis or not, she's pretty sad not to be welcoming you and looking forward to the hope of being able to welcome you in person as you think about joining our faculty. I'll be speaking only for about 5 or 10 minutes, after which my colleague Dr. Jessica Tiffin will be going into some more detail about our programs, and then it would be great if we could spend some time answering your questions. I'm sure you have a lot. Please feel free to write them at any point during the chat in the chat function, and we will pick them up and respond to them as fully as we can. Let me begin by asking perhaps two of the most important questions that may have led you to join us today. Why? Why would you want to study in a humanities faculty? And how can you be confident, right? How can you be confident that the world beyond university will welcome you and your degrees, humanities degrees, with open arms and willing wallets? Can I have the next slide, please? So this may surprise you. In the mid-2010s, so quite a while ago, 10 years ago, a decade ago, Google, yes, the giant tech Google, which we either love or hate, but is very, very much part of what is called the fourth industrial revolution, the way of thinking about the future for ways to engage culture, business, humanity. The revolution in the 4IR goes to the internet-based relationship of how relationships, really, of how we live in 2021, whether that's in relation to social lives, financial lives, cultural lives. And the Google tech giant, they conducted an in-depth study, right, of what kinds of skills they wanted. They wanted. You think computers, you think industry. Google, massive. What do they want? The answer, and this caught Google itself off guard, the answer was actually not the skills in the science and technology and engineering field. It was the skills that humanities graduates get. What are those? Communication, possessing insights into a wide field of engagement, flexibility, being able to work with different values and points of view, being able to support teams, working with empathy, not as something that's outside your job, but as something that's integral to the job, thinking about facility with critical thoughts and language, being able to make connections across complex ideas. Now, whatever degree you would do in humanities, I can assure you that those will become your zones of expertise. Could I have the next slide, please? If you come to the Faculty of Humanities, there are so many possible career prospects. That slide actually shows the image of Koleka Putuma, a young poet who has been storming the cultural barricades over the last couple of years. Her first collection of poetry went into its 9th printing last year, and she is a humanities person, and she got those skills very much, she says herself, through humanities at UCT. And UCT humanities can offer you careers in the media, in the public sector, in the private sector, professionally and publicly. We do a number of specific programs: becoming a psychologist, becoming a teacher, becoming a social worker, becoming a film and media production person. Some of our graduates go into international and local NGO work. A great many go into various relationships of research, consultancy. Becoming actually involved in the academic field itself is a possibility. Could I have the next slide, please? We've long, I think, moved past that myth, and you may already know this, but it's worth saying, that myth that somehow the humanities space is not rigorous, is not connected to a strong flow through into your own success. Your career prospects are multiple, and they are grounded, as I've said, in the ways in which a humanities training places you to make connections, to develop networks, to be versatile, to think out of the box, something that is increasingly a top priority for any kind of future. I think also what is worth telling you, and I hope that we're going to be able to talk about this in much more depth across the day, you yourselves have come through such a difficult set of months. Your matric now, still half online, what you went through in the years before that, what you faced in your families and in the world around you. You have to look, as you move into humanities, for the space in which that expertise, your individual experience and brilliance, is going to be recognized, is going to be drawn upon, is going to become part and parcel of the curricula themselves. That will happen in humanities. You will never in humanities be faced with a syllabus that goes, swallow this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. Now you're examined on it. It's not like that in humanities at UCT. It's like an engagement with who you are in all your diversities. And it is, in fact, we come back strangely to Google, that is what is realized, that humanities spaces are well placed to think about the future of the world, whether that's artificial intelligence, whether that's climate change, whether that's what it means to be both global and local in the fight for what is sometimes called an alternative humanity. I'm going to stop now. Let me maybe say that I suppose what we offer is tacit knowledge, the 4 C's: creativity, collaboration, communication, critical thinking. You may become an artist, you may be a writer, you will become productive, knowledgeable, and empathetic individuals. How do I know this? Look at me. It would be better if you were listening to Shose, because she's amazing and I'd love you to meet her. But I'm somebody who's not young. One of the huge virtues of that is how many people who are young, humanities students, I have been honored to work with over what is now an astonishing number of years. What I'm telling you about the quality of people I meet and interact with on a daily basis 19, 20, 25, 27-year-olds, you are amazing. And it is in the humanities space that I have been lucky enough to be able to engage with that for years in order to think in a way that makes me want to keep thinking, want to keep breathing, want to meet you next year, you. I'm going to stop. I'm going to welcome your questions in the chat, and I'm going to turn over now to Dr. Jessica Tiffin, who'll talk about the more detailed aspects of our programs. Thanks again for being with us, and please stay. I'm looking forward to the prospect of a bit of back and forth.
Morning, everybody, and as Jane said, welcome to the Humanities presentation, and thank you for your interest in this faculty. I'm Coordinator of Undergrad Affairs for the Humanities faculty, which basically means that I do an awful lot of student advice, and I have a great deal of knowledge about the programs that we offer, and that's actually what I'm going to talk about in an attempt to give you some guidance as to how your degrees might be shaped in this faculty. So I'm hoping that my PowerPoint is visible. So one of the things that Humanities is going to offer you is a huge amount of choice. We're a very large faculty. We have a large number of departments and subjects. And within those departments and subjects, we have a large number of potential programs of study which you might be able to follow, and which might be actually causing you a little bit of anxiety as you look at the application process and think, what the hell is it that I actually want to do? So the humanities offerings fall into two main types, what we call the structured programs and the general degrees. So the structured programs are actually the minority of programs in the faculty. These are dedicated, focused programs of study with a very specific flavor and direction. Structured program sets out the courses that you're required to do over your 2 or 3 or 4 years of study. You have some choice within those programs around how you specialize, but not a lot of choice, a few electives. By and large, the pleasure of a structured program is that it lays out for you what to do. It gives you a list of courses and you just go ahead and study them. The vast majority of students in the faculty, probably 4,000 or so out of our 5,000 students, are in the General Bachelor of Arts and General Bachelor of Social Science programs. These are the general degrees. And this is a sort of a formative liberal arts degree in the sense that you are choosing your subjects for yourself. They are built around choice, they're extremely flexible. They work around a formula of a number of courses you have to pass by the end of the degree in order to graduate. And they're built around your majors, which are the specialized subjects that you choose to follow for the full 3 years of the degree. So when you make a decision about what you want to study in humanities, you will either be looking at a structured program or you will be looking at the general degrees. And most of you will probably be looking at the general degrees, as I said, about 4/5 of you are in those. So examples of structured programs, the Performing and Creative Arts programs, Fine Art, Bachelor of Arts and Theatre and Performance, Bachelor of Music. There are also diploma and certificate programs within the Performing and Creative Arts, so it's not all at degree level. And there are also structured programs that operate with very similar courses to the ones taken by the general degrees. We call them the upper campus programs, social work, Bachelor of Arts in Film and Media Production, the PPE, that kind of thing. So when you're applying for a program in humanities, we're looking primarily at your matric points. This is particularly important with the general BA or BSoc Sci. Something to remember with general BA and BSoc Sci is that we accept you for the degree, not for the majors. So you will get a place in the Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Social Science. Some majors have additional entrance requirements which you will need to meet in order to enter that particular subject. Performing Creative Arts, we're looking at your matric points, but also an audition or portfolio requirement. We're interested in your practical skills. And other programs have specific entrances, for example, PPE, you will need good maths. So I'm going to talk very briefly about the general degrees. Primarily, what I want you to be aware of is that the Bachelor of Arts and the Bachelor of Social Sciences are the same degree. They have the same structure, and when you apply for either of them. It doesn't really matter which one you select. If you've changed your mind about what you want to study, you can actually swap between them. So whether or not you have a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Social Sciences depends on which majors you choose. We have arts majors, which are things like English, French, history, languages. We have social science majors, which are things like psychology, sociology, gender. And we also offer a number of major subjects which you can take from departments outside the faculty, which is where you'll get your law, your organizational psychology, that kind of thing. So primarily as an applicant, please don't worry about whether or not you want a BA or a BSocSci. It doesn't matter. You put down one, and if you've changed your mind about your majors by the time you actually come to register, we just swap you into the other. It's really not a big deal. So huge numbers of potential subjects that we offer. What I'm actually going to do, incidentally, is to give you the link for this, for the slides, if you want to look at them in more detail. And you can, I'll put them up on the Humanities website, and you can simply follow them if you want more detail on the information that I'm giving you. Why am I not there? So lots of arts majors, lots of social science majors, lots of potential non-humanities majors, bearing in mind that the more technical majors, things like maths or environmental geographical science, might expect you to have particular matric points, matric subjects in order to enter those majors. And if you don't, you may need to do catch up in your first year at university before you can actually go into that particular subject. We also recognize most of the majors that the science faculty offers. Those can be highly technical though, and will make you do lots of extra courses in chemistry, maths, stats, physics, etc. So you might end up with an overall bigger degree because of the number of extra courses a science major would expect you to do. The other thing to remember about our programs is that many of them are offered in both a mainstream and an extended version. So the Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Social Science extended degree, general degree, you can access as a 3-year degree. If your matric points are a little bit lower than they should be for entry, and you are coming from a previously disadvantaged category, and it looks as though you have good potential, we may give you a place in the extended version of that degree, which just spreads out the load of your courses over 4 years rather than 3, and gives you additional foundation courses, tutorials, support. There are extended programs of other extended versions of other programs. Fine art has one. Some of the music degrees have extended programs. So alternative access is quite an important aspect of our transformation processes. And we do in giving access to those programs to students with the slightly lower matric points, not only allow them access, but attempt to support you throughout that degree. So when you're applying, please remember we offer you a place in the degree. This does not guarantee that you will get into the major that you want to. Most majors you can work around to it. You can do extra courses. You can pick up maths things to let you into economics, those kinds of things. But generally, if you have a place in the BA, BSocSci, you can move between them. And then which majors you can subsequently enter will very much depend on what you do, what you choose, what your matric subjects were. You don't apply for any of the 4-year degrees. We will place you in those degrees if you don't quite have the matric points to make the mainstream version, but we think that you have the potential to succeed. And primarily, if you're interested in the general degree, very important that you don't panic about how to choose your subjects. We spend a lot of time in orientation briefing you on what your options are, what the subjects are like, how the majors are shaped, and by the time you finish the orientation program, you should have a much better sense of how you're going to proceed through this degree and how you're going to make the choices that you need to make. And the advantage of the general degrees, they can be a bit scary because they throw this huge choice at you and say, what do you want to do? Tell us. But conversely, they are extremely flexible and adaptable, and you have the chance, as you do not in many other programs, to try things out. To arrive thinking maybe you want to do this particular subject. It turns out after a while that actually it's not what you thought it was. And you can perhaps swap to a different degree, a different subject which suits you better, which you're better at. Many students end up picking up electives in their first year, which turn into majors because they love them and discover that they're very good at them. So don't panic is the mantra here. And while we give you a lot of advice in orientation, we also give you advice throughout your degree. There are curriculum advisors available at registration and throughout the year. The programs all have program conveners and particular academic staff members who are in charge of programs. So at any point during your studies, you can talk to an experienced academic member of staff who will advise you on how it's going, what your options are, what other options you have if you want to change, for example. Very easy to change your mind in the general degrees. Students drop and add courses a lot, particularly in their first year. They try things out, they decide they don't want to do them, they do something different. There are deadlines for changing courses, but a lot of students in their first year of a general degree change their second semester almost completely after trying out their first semester because, you know, this wasn't what they thought it was. Changing degrees is a little bit more difficult because you need to meet the entrance requirements for the new degree, and there's not always space in the new degree. But if you're accepted for the PPE, it's always easy to change into the general. If you're accepted into the general degree and you decide you want to change into the Bachelor of Social Work, if there's space, they will often accept you because the entrance requirements are the same. It's more difficult to change into something like the PPE or Performing and Creative Arts because you need specific matric subjects, and in the case of Performing Creative Arts, high levels of training in that particular subject. It's comparatively more difficult to move into other faculties from humanities, but it is possible. Some students spend a year in humanities, decide they don't really want it, they apply for another faculty and they move over. So you're not necessarily locked into what you choose when you arrive, and there are a lot of people available to give you the information that you need to make informed choices as you continue through your studies. So I would normally do a lot of discussion of the specific entry requirements for particular majors which have those entry requirements. But we are actually very short of time. There is only there are only 5 minutes left of it. So I will put the slides for this talk onto the Humanities Open Day page on the Humanities website, which I have just popped into the Q&A chat there. So if you want more information about that, you are very welcome to have a look at that. But other than that, I see someone asks questions about what is required for psychology. So I'm actually just going to answer this because it's a very common one. So psychology, surprisingly, at university level requires mathematics at matric. Psychology is very full of statistics. There are dedicated psychology stats and research courses at second and third year level. And you will need mathematics at NSC in order to be eligible for psychology in first year without doing extra courses. If you don't have mathematics at NSC, if you did maths lit, it's actually not a problem. You can still start psychology in your first year at UCT, but you will also need to take additional maths courses in order to bring your maths up to the level where it needs to be for you to handle the stats element of the research courses in second year and third year. So psychology is a useful one because even if you don't have the maths requirements for psychology, you can still start psychology in your first year, do the maths at the same time, and it doesn't take you extra time.
5 minutes left, Jessica.
Yeah, sorry?
No, just saying 5 minutes left.
5 minutes left, yeah, okay. If you are interested in economics, you have more of a problem. The maths requirement for economics is higher. You need 60% mathematics at matric. Maths literacy does not count. And you cannot catch that up in your first year at the same time that you do first year economics. So if you're interested in economics, but you don't have the matric mathematics that you need for economics, you will have to do maths catch-up courses in your first year, and you will only be able to start the economics in your second year. Since economics is a 3-year course of study, this means that your degree as a whole will stretch over 4 years instead of the usual 3. If you were accepted for the 3-year version of the degree, you'll basically take an extra year, which many of our students do and is not usually a problem at all. Okay, I'm just seeing if there are any other interesting questions in the chat. All right, somebody asks about studying a language. Languages in humanities at UCT are really useful because you can study them either if you've done matric in that subject, or you can study them if you've never studied that language before. So generally speaking, in most of our language courses, the first year of the language is for people who've never studied it before. If you did matric in that subject, you actually start your subject at UCT in the second year courses. So you only do 2 years of it because you've effectively done the equivalent of first year if you did matric in French or Afrikaans or something like that. But if you didn't do the language at matric, there is absolutely nothing to stop you from starting it fresh in the first year. It's quite an intense first year, but it's an amazing opportunity to pick up new languages if you're interested in that. Somebody asks about the requirements for marine biology. These would be the what we call the starred science majors. These are majors which are technical science majors. They are things like human physiology. Someone asked about marine biology, ocean and atmospheric science, any of the biology ones really, biochemistry, astrophysics. In addition to the usually 6 courses over 3 years that you need to do in biology or physiology, you will also have to do large quantities of maths, stats, depending on the major, probably chemistry and physics in your first year. And entry to these majors requires you to meet the same matric points and subject entrance requirements as students do who are accepted for the Bachelor of Science in the science faculty. So if you want to do mathematics as a major, for example, you need matric mathematics at 70%. If you want to do human physiology, you need to do first year chemistry, which requires mathematics at 70%.